Welcome to the Persecution Report. Bengalis are known as one of the oldest cultures in the world. Our cultural root can be traced back to the time of Alexander the Great. For hundreds and thousands of years in our culture, teachers hold a very special position. When we see our teachers, we kneel our head. We do not look into our teachers' eyes out of respect. There is no profession in Bengali culture which is more respectable than the teachers. Today we confront a crisis that strikes the heart of Bangladeshi culture. The systematic persecution of teachers of Bangladesh. Educators, the very pillars of our society, are being forced to resign, humiliated, and even subjected to violence since August 5th, 2024. And even subjected to violence are the minority teachers who are targeted specifically for their religious views, such as Hindus. In this episode, we dissect the forced resignation, government inaction, media silence, and the path forward. Joining me today is Fayaz Hussain, a columnist, Rana Meher, educator and activist, Saifur Rahman Mishu, activist, and Shah Adanujaman, a leader of Bangladesh Student League, Bangladesh Chatra League. Adan, can you please at first take us through the crisis?
Thank you so much, Mr. Alam. So, teachers in the status quo right now in Bangladesh are being politically targeted and hijacked from their livelihoods and professions. Teachers are being forced to resign. Some teachers and academicians are supporters of Awami League. However, so many of them are actually not. Many of them weren't even active in politics, weren't even involved during the protests last year. Some of these academics were coerced to resign simply because they're Hindus. According to a report from August 5th to September 1, 2024, at least 49 to 50 Hindu teachers were mobbed and forced to resign. The university administrations across the country have been taken over by the interim government sympathizers. Since August 5th, 2024, the Yunus-led interim government has installed their supporters and sympathizers in various administrative positions in virtually every Bangladeshi educational institutions, including universities. And then these universities and their administrations, including the University of Dhaka and Jahangirnagar University, they, these university administrations, they started filing frivolous complaints against numerous faculty members. Some of these university administrations condoned and in some cases even enabled a small fraction of students from the universities to gather as mobs so that this small number of students who don't even represent the vast majority of students in these universities, they get to force their teachers to resign. In many instances, these mobs coercively entered the faculty offices and kept their teachers hostage in their own offices for hours so that these teachers feel compelled to resign. Some of these teachers were even physically assaulted by their own students and these mobs. Even after 9 months since August last year, for instance, the Dhaka University administration and other university administrations are simply unable to find any proof, any evidence whatsoever against these teachers based on this frivolous and fabricated complaints. But the university administrations are refraining the academicians and teachers from going to classes and interacting with students. So their tactic is pretty simple, by the way. They will keep on prolonging their so-called investigations on these complaints and delay the verdicts so that these teachers who were forced to resign, they failed to do what they love to do the most, which is teaching students and shaping Bangladesh's future. And we often forget this, but these teachers are human beings as well. They have their own families, children to look after. But when the educational institutions are simply refusing to pay their salaries, which these teachers deserve, the interim government is not only making the teachers' life miserable, but also putting their family members' lives in jeopardy. Around 350,000 teachers celebrated this Eid without their salaries. However, I think I would be able to take some solace if the teachers were only affected financially. Right now in Bangladesh, their lives are in a great danger. Teachers are being lynched under the watch of the interim government. After August 5th, 2024, there was a series of incidents where the teachers are being lynched only because they are the supporters of Bangladesh Army League. Many eminent academics were physically harassed, some even became sick or wounded. These are incidents of death caused by mob lynching. In Chittagong, for instance, the former acting principal of Hajira Taju Degree College, SM Ayub, died because of heart attack, which was triggered by months of relentless torment, emotional torment that came from mob attack. On September 24, a group of students literally cornered Ayub inside the college campus and subjected him to public humiliation and forced him to resign. This traumatic event caused him to collapse on the spot and later he demised. The acting vice principal of Habibullah Bahar College, MD Saifur Rahman Bhuyan, was also killed by miscreants at his home in Uttara, Dhaka. And you know what the most interesting thing about him is? He is a BNP supporter, but the mob actually suspected him to be affiliated with Awami League. Prominent scholar and human rights activist Shahir Kabir was arrested on fabricated murder charges. He even suffered a second heart attack while remaining in custody. I wish the attacks on teachers were only from mobs and some students. Unfortunately, the police of the interim government has brutally treated teachers from even Islamic schools. While in the one hand, the teachers in the mainstream institutions are being lynched regularly, on the other hand, the teachers of the religious institutions are not even free from discrimination. The teachers of the Ibtidai madrasas were brutally attacked by the Bangladesh police just because they arranged processions demanding their professional rights. They were simply demanding the nationalization of their institutions. Police charged batons and used water cannons to disperse these teachers. A lot of these teachers were injured on the spot. While this government is saying that they're trying to maintain the dignity of the religious majority, which in this case, Muslims of the country, this is the way they are treating their own teachers from Islamic schools. When the Indian government says they're catering to Muslims, they're actually not catering to Muslims. They're actually catering to, they're actually safeguarding the terrorists who are linked to Al Qaeda and ISIS. They're actually harboring extremists like Jamaat Islami and Shibir and other terrorist organizations like Hizbut Tahrir. Thank you.
Saifur Rahman Mission, this is not uniquely new to Bangladesh. We have seen this before once. In 1971, during our liberation war, the persecution of teachers, academics, and our scholars. Can you take us through that historic perspective, please?
Well, thank you, Tanoi, first of all, for inviting me to your show. Absolutely, what you are saying. Bangladesh has indeed seen a tragic and painful history of persecution of educators, intellectuals, and scholars, most infamously during its liberation war in 1971. The targeting of intelligentsia is a deeply embedded scar in the nation's collective memory. During the Bangladesh Liberation War, particularly in the final days before independence, the Pakistan Army and its local collaborators, most notably Al Badr and Al Shams, systematically targeted the country's intellectual community. On December 14, just 2 days before victory, over 200 Bengali intellectuals, including professors, journalists, doctors, engineers, writers, and artists, were abducted from their homes in Dhaka. And there, some of like dead bodies of some of them were found, but most of the dead bodies were never found. So I can mention some names here. Dr. Muni Chaudhary, who was a prominent educator, playwright, and linguist. Dr. Mohammad Fazlur Rabbi, a very famous cardiologist and professor. Govinda Chandra Dev, he was a philosopher and professor. Dr. Alim Chaudhary, Shoidullah Khaisar, and many others. Even if we look a bit back, even before 1971, Bengali scholars and educators were often marginalized or suppressed during colonial rule under Pakistan's West centric policies. We can see in 1952, Bengali students and scholars led protests demanding Bengali as the state language of Pakistan. Police opened fire, killed students like Salam, Rafiq, Barkat, and Jabbar. During the Pakistan era, East Pakistani institutions received less funding and recognition compared to those in West Pakistan, and Bengali academics were often overlooked and censored. So this is
I,
how it has been.
there is another question here, Sapraman Misho. If you could put light to that, shed a little light.
Yeah,
When we mentioned that 1971 persecution of the teachers, as we know, our intellectual matter intellectual day, 14th of December 1971, which we celebrate every year.
yeah.
Who are the perpetrators of that crime? And do you see any connection between those perpetrators, those ideologies, and who are in power today?
Of course, it's very much connected. I have already mentioned names of two wings, which were called Al Badr and Al Shams at that time, who were actually those forces were built using the active members of Jamaat Islami at that time and the student wing, which used to be called Islami Chhatra Sangha at that time, but later on they have changed their name, which is nowadays called Islami Chhatra Shibir. So they are the same group of people, same ideologies, and same political party, I would say.
And how do they connect today's situation? Do they connect to today's situation?
We have seen on 5th of August, the army chief has said in front of the nation that he had sit with different political leaders, and the first name came, who is the current Amir or the leader of Jamaat Islami. So they are currently running the government from behind. So that means they are the same group of people or same people who hold the same ideology, who were like the local who are the local collaborators of Pakistani army in 1971. So over the years, they didn't change their ideology. They were always against our Bangladeshi culture, Bangladeshi independence, and everything. So currently, it's very
Fayaz, I would like to bring Fayaz to this conversation. And my question to you, Fayaz, is that how did this situation unfold in Bangladesh in 2024? How did this persecution unfold? How did it start?
Thank you very much for your question. The important factor is it didn't unfold suddenly. There was a systematic target here. It was pre-planned. So the media reports are saying at least 49 incidents happened. But to my knowledge,
No,
to what I've witnessed so far,
media didn't. Just a correction. Media didn't say 49 incident happened. Media said 49
Minority.
minority teachers were targeted.
Exactly.
But,
At
the
least. At
target
least.
are not
Yeah.
just the minority teachers. We have seen, like, it's anyone who has secular point of views,
Right.
those teachers were targeted.
Exactly, exactly. So at least 49 minority teachers doesn't represent the whole picture of the nation. That's what I was saying. There is a lot more incidents. And what happened was, after the violent protests that led to the ousting of Aum League, they had a target that they need to replace intellectuals within their own framework on mindset to radicalize the next generation of students. So they had this pre-planned in their mindset to put in people of their ideology. So they cannot vacate the teachers in one day. So they radicalize the students and mob them to take vigilance and law in their own hands and make the teachers step down. And so this was pre-planned and a meticulous design mechanism to target the teachers and persecute them, so that the secularists, anyone who is loyal to the 1971 Liberation War, or the minorities, suffer and they step down out of shame. So that was their pre-planned notion, which they attributed and perfectly designed to implement in some of the cases.
And to Rana Maher is an educator. Being an educator, Rana Maher, how have this forced resignation impacted the educational institutions themselves? And what does this mean for the students and the future of education in Bangladesh?
Thank you, Tonoy. The future of education looks very grim, and the future of education looks not very good. Um, just, just look at the whole scenario. In a modern civilized world, diversity and mutual respect are two fundamental values that we need to uphold. Now, our young boys and girls have lost that opportunity to share a space where different political views and different religion should coexist together in harmony. Our young boys and girls, those students lost that opportunity. Another point is, Tonoy, the young people, boys or girls, and the university students as well, they need some sort of role model so they can look up to. Of course, the family members can be a role model, no problem with it, but the educational institute is the place where they spend most of their time. Now, after this horrific incident, when Adan was showing those pictures, I've seen them before, but it's still traumatizing me. Seeing those educators, some of them could have been my colleagues, some of them could have been my own teachers. It just horrifies me. So, no role model apart from some social media personals, some very, how can I say, very conservative religious speaker that they can look into, but no actual role model like teacher in front of them. About educational institution, they will suffer for both long and short term. Firstly, the institutions have two fundamental duties. One is duty to care, another one is duty to education. Our educational institutes failed them both miserably. How can they fulfill this responsibility when their staff are being persecuted simply for being part of a minority group or supporting a political party that is not in power? Institutions have failed not only their own duty of care towards staff, but also to their students. And in the long run, Bangladesh is already suffering from a shortage of skilled educators. If I'm not wrong, our primary education sectors have 8,000 vacant positions. Now, university like Khulna University is shut, and many other college, school, university are suffering from lack of skilled educators as well. Now, if I ask myself, if I was in Bangladesh in this environment, in this hostile day-to-day environment, would I want to be a part of a system where I could be humiliated, I could be physically harassed, and forced to live with a lifelong trauma? I don't think so, Tonai. And this is the long term impact I was talking about. The whole process, 150 teachers, they were reported till 31st of August, they were forced to resign. minimum 50 of them are minorities. There are other pattern of abuse towards women educator as well. So if I can put them all in a very simple context, the education in Bangladesh is adrift. Okay, our education system is a broken boat in a stormy sea with no lighthouse visible. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
So what I understand from your statement and your point of view is that a, a, a climate of fear, a climate of fear where teachers feels truly unsafe,
Of course,
something that and this climate of fear is rippling through our education system. The quality of education is declining because of the politicization of the classrooms. Now,
exactly.
if teachers are forced to resign for political reasons, what does that mean for the integrity of the education system in Bangladesh, Rana?
Sorry, say it again.
If teachers are forced to resign, what it tells about the integrity of our education system
It basically tells us,
and the
Donna.
government as well, please.
Okay. It basically says, Tono, there is no integrity. There is no integrity in the education system because you have mentioned integrity. Can I just point out one particular pattern of this abuse towards female teacher? Okay, female educator. We know that teachers of minority, teachers of different political view, it doesn't even have to be different political view. If their political view or any sort of view, those thugs, those mob, they believed that it is not in line with their view, those educators can be attacked by that mob and can be harassed and can be made losing their job. And if I can shift my answer, because you're talking about integrity, if I can shift my answer to a specific pattern of torturing the female educators. If I can grab your attention to a particular incident, uh, that person's name is Shikharani Roy. She used to be the assistant head teacher of a ABP high school in Muradnagar, Khulna. In 22nd of September, she lodged a complaint in a local police station explaining the horrific incident happened to her. She was detained by some of her colleagues, some of her former and current students, and some of the local politicians. She was detained in a room for 2 hours, and in these 2 hours, she suffered continuous physical and sexual torture. And after
And
these 2 hours,
was she from the minority background?
she was, her name was Shikharani Roy. She was from a minority background. Yes.
So
And after
she's a Hindu.
she is,
She
yes,
is from the Hindu religious background.
she is from
One
the
of the
Hindu
worst
community.
victims of the
Exactly.
crisis that is unfolding.
Exactly. That's why I'm using Shikharani's example because it shows us how a person from a minority group and a person became the subject of a gender-based violence as well. So after 2 hours of continuous torture, physical and sexual torture, when she refused to sign that resignation form, she was threatened that there will be a video of stripping her and the video will be public. And then after 2 hours, she was taken to a vehicle, and even in that vehicle, she suffered sexual and physical torture until she was taken to a safe place. So you can imagine, and of course, the police was reluctant to take that complaint. She suffered some consequence of it, and I tried to find out what happened to Miss Roy, but I could not find any more information. So you can see how the integrity of a teacher is being suffered. So you can see how the whole picture is. So when an educator, simply because being a woman or being a minority, coming from a minority group, either men or women, or coming from a Awami League background, or maybe they were not part of Awami League, but somehow those thugs believed they had a different political view, and that made us being in the wrong side of the fence. They suffered.
So
Many
it is
schools are
basically
closed.
us and them. That
Sorry, Tana?
either you are, it's basically us and them. Okay, either
It is.
you have the same political view or same view as us, or you will be humiliated.
Exactly. It's my
You will be
way or
persecuted.
highway. There's nothing in between. There's no coexistence. Yeah, that's all I
That's
needed to say.
pluralism. That explains pluralism. Since they're promoting pluralism so much, okay, they're even trying to replace our constitution with pluralism instead of secularism, which they fail to explain yet. Okay, what type of pluralism
Those
they
are
are
all lip
speaking of.
service, isn't it, Tono? Those are all lip
Yeah, it's
service.
definitely lip service. Okay, in one hand, okay, because it sounds more socially acceptable,
Of course, of course.
especially for someone like Muhammad Yunus, who is a Nobel Peace Laureate.
And he is to be an educator himself. What an irony. What an irony.
Also, this the worst victim of this crisis is the Hindu teachers, which has been now established by not just by us. We are just speaking what we see in the newspaper reports and what the human rights organizations are informing us. Now, as Saifur Rahman Mishu, how is this impacting the curriculum? And what type of educational environment we are offering to our students? Like it's so pluralized, so marginalized. Okay, what we are offering to our younger generation?
Very great question. Basically, I would like to highlight some points here. The loss of teachers, especially from minority communities, has deep and lasting effect on both the curriculum and the educational environment, I would say. It reduces diversity of perspectives and it narrows the historical narratives. It leads to the erasure of minority cultures, languages, and contributions in the long run. It encourages self censorship, it limits critical and inclusive education. Minority students will lose their role models, affecting identity and belonging. And very important is the classrooms become less inclusive and more biased. So as a result, the remaining educators may feel fearful and demoralized. It will weaken critical thinking and democratic values. It will increase social fragmentation and intolerance among students and also the other teachers as well. So when the students are impacted by such activities or such thing, it will impact the society. So it has the direct impact to our society, I would say.
And Adan, you are from the younger generation as well as Fayaz. So Fayaz is the younger. Adan, you are the youngest. What's your view? Okay, like what type of message going to your generation?
So
Like what your friends are thinking about this situation, and what's their thought? Okay, how they are responding to this?
So thank you for the question. So just a couple days ago, I was watching a video on YouTube, and that video literally traumatized me because a student, he was sitting for his exam, and he just simply slapped his teacher who was responsible for that exam hall as an invigilator. And my thought is, if as a student, if you perceive your teacher, if you have dehumanized your teacher to an extent within your mind that you feel that you have the right to slap him, or you can slap him or attack him physically, that means there is a moral decay across the country right now, specifically among Gen Z, specifically among people of kids of my generation, because this shouldn't happen in the first place. Why is this important? I think the first reason why this is important is because if someone with an agenda wants to mobilize students to attack an educational institutions or even a single teacher, they can easily do it now. They can simply go there and say, look, your teacher is a horrible person. He supported the fascist regime of Awami League. He's a fascist enabler. They right now they just tag their teachers by saying they're fascist enablers, so on and so forth. And they simply organize students, mobilize students, and attack teachers in that way. So this is how they assassinate characters of teachers and attack them. But more importantly, after parents, we view teachers as our role models, our superheroes, right? If we look
Yeah,
for,
that's our culture.
yeah, yes,
That's
sir.
our culture.
Yes,
That's our culture. That respect for the teacher in our hierarchy of respect. Teachers are at the top. They are
sir.
like almost a deity to us
Yes, yes,
for generations. Like for the rest of our lives, when we see a teacher, we'd be like so humble in front of them.
yes,
When we get a job, first person we go and tell is our teachers. We call our
yes,
teachers, "Sir, I got a job."
yes, yes. So
And yes, others, please go on.
yes, so we look out for our teachers for guidance and advice. We look up to them to build our character, ethics, and morality. But more importantly, if your teacher says you should study instead of hanging out with a group who abuse drugs, or the kid should listen to the teacher, right? If your teacher says you should not lie, you should be honest always, the students should listen. If your teacher says you should not disrespect someone or maybe troll someone on social media or attack someone physically, you should listen to them. But I'm not saying all teachers are good, right? But even a good teacher can make mistakes because we are all humans. But we need the presence of our teachers in our lives, no matter what. My favorite teacher in school was an English teacher. I studied at Government Laboratory High School, and he inspired me to join debating, and I did. And debating helped me a lot in my life. But imagine when a student thinks he can slap his teacher, this means he no longer views his teacher as a role model, as a supermodel, a superhero. When we are teenagers and we are growing up, we often find it difficult to relate with our parents even. So if we don't have our parents as a role model, if we fail to relate with our parents, we go to teachers. But now we're not going to teachers, by the way, because we think we can slap them. So it creates a vacuum of role models, of superheroes in our life. So when do your kids will go? Where I will go as a student? I will probably fell into the traps set by terrorist organizations, set by extremist groups, or set by teen gangs in the country. So if you're a parent who is listening right now to this podcast and you don't want to think along these extreme lines even, this means your kid starts feeling good when he's around with a so-called friend who is abusing drugs, or at the very least who is not serious about life and not studying in school at all and developing his skills. So you can see how the dehumanization of teachers trickles down into the destruction of our future generations' morality and life. So if you're a parent, you should be concerned right now in Bangladesh.
And Fayaz, what your friends are saying about the situation? How they are seeing it is. Fayaz, you're muted. Fayaz, please unmute yourself.
Right. Sorry. The cultural gap between the students and the teachers will widen. It will get deeper. And what will happen is the students will not know exactly how to respect the teachers. And for the next generation, it can get more and more troublesome and dangerous, because the next generation, not only the gap will increase, there will be a lack of discipline among students, and the minority students or anyone not associated with the mainstream political ideology of the interim government or the future governments might feel disassociated and disenfranchised comparatively, and the level of diversity, inclusivity among the educational classrooms will decrease, and leading to long-term impacts and consequences, leading to both fatigues, failures for both teachers and students in the long term.
Mr. Alam, if I may add with Mr. Hussain and Ms. Meher. So I think we should also be concerned about brain drain right now in Bangladesh a lot. Because if the ongoing attacks against the teachers persist, we won't see our country's best and brightest to become school teachers and university faculties. I genuinely think choosing the profession to become a teacher comes with a huge personal sacrifice. Teachers in Bangladesh, in a lot of cases, they're underpaid even. And why would a brilliant IBA graduate, for instance, since I come from IBA, won't join Unilever, where they can make a decent living with dignity instead of choosing a low-paid jobs, which now comes with mental trauma and physical attacks? Why would a University of Chittagong graduate would choose to become a school teacher instead of pursuing other decent career options? The reason why countries like Finland, Singapore, South Korea, and Japan have a strong education system from primary to tertiary education system is because they value their teachers in every possible way. This means in the long term, we will have more teachers in our education system who are not good at their job, who are not good teachers. Because the brightest ones are either joining other jobs or teaching abroad in a foreign school or university. Would you want, if you're a listener right now of this podcast, would you want your children's future at the hands of not so good teachers? I don't think so. So if you're someone who thinks that, oh, I'm not impacted by the ongoing attacks on teachers, on the ongoing persecution of teachers, you may give it a second thought, because in reality, you're actually impacted. Thank you.
The government's response to this crisis raises serious concerns. Rather than protecting teachers, we have seen indifference at best and complicity at worst. Peaceful protests by educators have been met with police crackdowns in some cases. Meanwhile, those attacking teachers often face no consequences for their actions. I mean, no consequences. To date, we haven't seen anyone booked for those consequences. This suggests either inability or unwillingness to safeguard academic freedom. Now, Rana, being educated, we already know that in Bangladesh, the teachers be underpaid in this time of inflation, especially. We right now have 11% inflation, which is huge for any country or any pay grade. Now, how would you assess the handling of the protest by law enforcement agencies and the government?
You mean the protest by the primary teachers 2 months ago?
Primary teachers and madrasa, Islamic school teachers, all of them are teachers.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Like any other protest, any other peaceful protest, the government did not handle them very well for any of the protests. In first place, the government basically, they did not say it, but the way the government handled that whole thing, they kind of saying there should not be any protest. Okay. Now the teachers protest, government use it in a quite brutal way. First, if I can talk about the primary school teachers. They were demonstrating in some part of Dhaka because they wanted their job back. They were gathering there and some huge force used against them. Water cannon. We have seen a picture where a woman carrying a child basically flying because the water cannon was so hard. The police battered them, beat them indiscriminately, and there was no kind of negotiation between these two parties. What those teachers want? What did the High Court say? Is there any way these two parties come in the middle and consort out something? They did not do it. It was all forceful. It was all saying like, you guys need to go back. You guys are not welcome to protest for your own rights. That is one thing. Secondly, another horrific things happened. As we all know, for last couple of months, since 5th of August 2024, since last summer, there is a witch hunt against Army League activists. They can be Chhatri League member, Chhatri League leaders, they can be Jubo League, Army League members, leaders, or if anybody believe they can have some sort of moral or psychological connection with Army League, they were hunt down. So what the police and the government did, as usual, they used that protest to carry on their witch hunt as well. I am so sorry, I do not remember the exact date, but during that primary school teachers protest, there were three teachers who actually went for the teacher examination. They passed, but they were protesting because the High Court order is not offering them the job. Three of them, they were arrested by police, claiming they are affiliated to Chhatri League. Okay? You cannot do this. You cannot do this. When you are doing this, you are basically targeting some individual there to stop that protest. Anyway, police arrested three of them. If I'm not mistaken, one from Kumilla, another one is from Noshingdi, another one, nobody knows. Now, because it became such an issue, the police said, do you know what? That arrest is a temporary measure and we will let you go as soon as the protest stopped. First thing is the blackmailing. You cannot just hold somebody saying, if other people go home, we will let you go. And secondly, you cannot arrest them. The tragic thing is, the horrifying thing is, Tonoy, no media followed this up. We do not know what happened to those three people.
We'll come to the media part after. Okay, in the next segment, we'll focus on the media and what role they have played. I have the additional question to you. That
Go on.
is unthinkable for any nation that the teachers are protesting and law enforcement agencies are going to use water cannon, batten them down heavily. This is just unthinkable for any civilized nation. But for Bangladesh, is it a sign of a bigger repression that is happening in Bangladesh?
It is. It is. Now, well, how I see this, okay? The government, the current government, very meticulously planning to identify Bangladesh, to make Bangladesh a failed state. Okay? If we can see, the government is weakened or completely destroyed the law enforcement agency, the jurisdiction, journalism, and of course the education sector as well. So when the government is turning into a blind eye into the turning into a blind eye to the teachers being abused, if I can remember, only till 25th of August, the education advisor, he kind of gave a kind of soft statement like, do not abuse the teacher, go home and I will do something. And after a week, he came back and said something like that. But I did not, I'm sure none of you did see any kind of visible result. So this was the start of destroying the education system. And another thing, Tonoy, we kind of I'm not saying we're forgetting, but often we forget to mention our primary school students. It is 1/4 of the year, but they haven't received their textbook. You tell me, we are talking about abuse, we are talking about torture, but what other countries does this to their students where our young people, they haven't got no textbook when they're studying? And if I'm not mistaken, this is the exam time, but they still don't have their books. So imagine the whole scenario. We are losing we are losing people like Dr. Anupam Sen, who is a world-renowned scholar. We are losing some very bright teachers, very bright educators because of this suffering. And as I and Tonoy were saying, if I was in Bangladesh, I would never, and my friends and family in Bangladesh, I would never suggest them to join teaching because their life comes first, that their integrity comes first. So we are going to a place where a big portion of our teaching will be vacant. So no textbook, a big hollow sector in the education section, the schools, college, many of them universities, either they're shut or the education system over there is broken. People are scared. The educators themselves, they're feared for their life. The students themselves, they believe they have right to treat teachers the way they want to. So education is another tool. I wouldn't say a way. Education is another tool that interim government is using to destroy our country, and we need to stop this. Thank you.
Saffron Mishu, Saffron Mishu, I know that you would like to add a few points to this, but I have an additional question to you with this, and that is, when a government uses such brutal force to protesting teachers, even to protest, let alone the teachers, where it goes ethically, what's its ethical consideration? Is it a government that has any ethics or moral?
No, sorry.
No, it's a very great question and a critical one, especially in the context of education and democracy. Uh, what you have asked, like when a government uses force against peaceful protest by educators, it actually crosses several ethical lines. Uh, Firstly, peaceful protest is a core human rights protected under both national constitutions and international law, like the UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article number 19 and 20. Using force to suppress this right is ethically unjustifiable unless there is a clear, immediate threat to public safety, which peaceful educators rarely pose. Educators are actually the pillar of the society. We need to understand that. They shape the minds, they foster dialogue, and often stand up for justice and truth. So, suppressing their voice is ethically very much problematic because it disrespects their moral authority and social responsibility to speak out, especially when education or justice is under threat. So, what we have seen, the government has used state missionaries like police, military, and other what's not to silence educators, and there is often an abuse of power. So, it reflects an attempt to control narrative rather than engage in dialogues or reform, which is ethically indefensible in any.
And then what it tells about dissent.
So it literally paints a very grim reality for decent and academic freedom in Bangladesh. This is simply because of the fact we need to step back for a while and think about what is actually the role of university faculties, academicians, intellectuals, and scholars. Academicians and scholars, they play a very vital role to be act as a pressure group, independent of journalists, independent of state institutions, religious groups, and others. And they often comment and research about different various contemporary political and public policy issues. The problem is when a particular group of people are not a particular group of intellectuals are no longer there because they have been silenced by the interim government. This means only the intellectuals, only the academicians who are supporters or enablers or sympathizers of the interim government, they are only present in the atmosphere. They are only present in the.
And now there is another question, the question of media, because as we know, media plays a crucial role in exposing such injustices. But in Bangladesh today, is the media fulfilling the duty? Some outlets have already reported on these cases. We have seen it in our slides. Others have downplayed or ignored the prosecution of the teachers completely. Uh, and in today's restricted media environment in Bangladesh, important stories sometimes are just lost, especially this one. But when like we are here talking about number which is probably over 100 or even more, and in reality, if we see it from a moral or ethical perspective, one is just too many. So Fayaz, I have that you've been involved with media. You are a columnist and you are also a media observer. Do you think media in Bangladesh is too cautious to report these events, or sometimes are they uh, there are there any restriction imposed on them to report them, and what role should the media be playing?
Thank you so much for the question. Now, what is media? Media is the fourth pillar of democracy. Now, the problem is when a country lacks democratic practices and is ruled by a fascist like Muhammad Yunus, what it illustrates is there will be no democratic practice in the media. So, media is being censored, silenced in many ways. For example, all the reports that we have is a very soft version of the real incidents. We cannot exactly portray how hard it was for the teachers. I saw one teacher who came on YouTube in September or October, and then she foretold that she went through physical assault and sexual assault after her enforced resignation. Now, that was not picked up by the media even after she came on YouTube. So you can understand that this is not normal. This is abnormal. Abnormally, media is going through an obnoxious level of pressure to be silent on many issues that go against the interim government. And they are portraying or marketing in favor of the interim government as brokers. And this is the reality of the media in Bangladesh right now. Another issue that I will point out, which is very important, is a British journalist who is a freelance journalist on behalf of BBC went to Bangladesh. Her name is Sahar Zand. She is from the UK, and she portrayed an important factor. That is the violence on the minorities that we see on the international media or the national media is only a small fragmentation, a small percentage of the actual events, and others are ignored. Now, the international media, international community, and Bangladeshi media are ignoring them. Because Bangladeshi media are ignoring them, the international observers or media are able to do it. Now, if it is for the minorities, then what about the teachers? What about secularists? They are even now, in the context of today, they are more than the minorities today. They are much narrower. Now, these teachers, they represent a secular voice. They represent an inclusive structure, and they are being silenced every day. Now, after those incidents, when the media did not portray them that well, when the media did not cover the violence in the protests, in handling the protests, in mismanaging the protests by the police, by the security forces, by the threats they received from the interim government, none of it was depicted clearly in the message of the media. So what it illustrated was fear among the teachers, fear in the society, fear in the next generation about what will happen to the education, and media as the fourth pillar will not be able to do much because democracy is missing. And the other part of the question is, what can we do? We on social media, we are trying to portray this. We are reaching international communities. We are trying to reach a lot of institutions. We are doing our advocacy. But apart from that, the people of Bangladesh, the common people, have to take it seriously. They have to advocate for it. They have to go for the teachers, because their children, their grandchildren will be suffering because of this. The future of education is in a dire bleak. It's almost like the education system of Bangladesh is getting extincted because of this. Because when you don't want to value teachers, you won't get valued as a student. Now, instead of having a good teacher, if we don't have a good teacher, it's like almost like when Napoleon said, "You give me a good mother, I'll give you a good nation." So if you can give a good teacher, yeah.
But we are running out of time today. Thank you for your input.
Thank you so much.
Rana, being an educator, what role the Bangladeshi civil society could play to get a better system, to get a better educational environment for and work environment for the teachers? Like, workplace safety matters. It's important.
Okay, thank you, Tone. Our civil society. I do not want to sound very disrespectful towards them, but I haven't seen, maybe it's my own lack of vision, but I haven't seen our civil society is playing the role they should play. Not for teachers only, of course, for teachers, they should be the first group of people to talk, but for anything happening in Bangladesh, I do not see the civil society who played a very significant role even before Bangladesh was in the world map. But so far, I haven't seen them talking. Some people, some members, I'm not mentioning any name, but some prominent member of the civil society who were very vocal during Awami League era, who were very vocal against any kind of human rights violation, any kind of violation of teachers' right or anything. They are either maintaining a very golden silence, or the way they are acting, which giving them some sort of advantage, some sort of benefit to be close with the current government, or they're not doing anything. So
And Rana, if you have one thing to say to the persecuted teachers of Bangladesh, just one thing, what would it be?
it would be, I will apologize to them. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. My teachers, who I am in debt for my life, for shaping me who we are, the future and current teachers who can be my colleagues, my apology. We failed you as a nation, but it will change. It will change. My apology.
And to the rest of the panelists, if you are to say one last thing for our listeners today to protect our teachers, to restore the integrity of this honorable profession, what would it be? Adan.
So you to all of our beloved teachers, and I know a lot of my teachers are also listening. You are not alone. We are doing everything possible to be with you, and Awami League will be your voice in this time of need, in this time of crisis. Thank you for doing this a great service to Bangladesh and shaping our future. Thank you.
Saifur Rahman Mishu?
Yeah, I would say definitely it's a shame for us that we couldn't protect our teachers, but we will definitely continue doing whatever we can do. But I would request the rest of the teachers who are not impacted directly still should raise their voice, because today or tomorrow they will not be spared. So they need to realize this: the teachers who have been persecuted are their people. There is, for the teachers, there is no you and me. We are the teachers. That's they should think. Thank you.
Fayaz? Fayaz, you are muted. Fayaz, you are. Yeah.
We are indebted to our teachers. We expect our teachers to be treated fairly. We would be raising our voice for our teachers. We would do everything we can. And I'm personally very sorry that I was not able to be there for my teachers in this time of dissent and casualties. And I hope this will come in attention and when will be addressed to an extent.
President of Bangladesh Awami League, Sheikh Hasina, daughter of our father of the nation, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, has already addressed our nation. And she has promised that there would be justice. And those, the perpetrators who persecuted our teachers, stop persecution. You will not be spared, because Bangladesh Awami League is Bangladesh, and there would be justice. In the next episode of the persecution report, we would be shedding light on some of the most gruesome events, human rights abuses that happened in Bangladesh since August 5th, 2024. These days, there are thousands of human rights abuses: murder, extortion, rapes, uh, persecution of teachers. But we are going to shout out a few of the most gruesome ones. Those type of human rights abuses that shakes the core of humanity. The things that's happening in Bangladesh. See you next week, next Sunday, same